For the benefit of the members of the public, I will repeat the housekeeping announcements. First, there are no planned fire alarm tests this evening. If you do hear the fire alarm, please leave by the nearest fire exit. Security staff will be available to direct you. Please can you switch off your mobile phones to silent mode? Thank you for that. I've got one or two announcements to make. The first is a very sad one, actually. We all know Michael Clear, who for about 10 years worked in the Mayor's office as the sort of MC and all sorts. Unfortunately, Michael is very ill. He's terminally ill. He's in a care home in Sevenoaks. He is very unwell, and visitors are restricted to family and close friends only. I ask that if you would like to, please remember him in your prayers and your thoughts. And anyone who wishes to pass messages to his family, please do so through my office. Thanks for that. There are a number of councillors from all sides who, for them, it is their last council assembly meeting. Jamil Mohammed, Mark Williams, Vijay Luthra, Samantha Jury Dada, Lucas Green, Maisie Anderson, Fiona Colley, Catherine Dale, Octavia Lamb, Anne Kirby, David Hubber, Rosie Shamil, James Ockerson and Ben Johnson. I think I've got everyone. I think on behalf of the council I would like to thank you for your years of hard work and service and wish you all the best in the future, and maybe a round of applause for those wouldn't go amiss. Thank you. I have my bottle of water here. Have everyone got their bottle of water? For those that don't, there's a fine of £1 for the Mayor's Common Good Trust. So I'll see you after school. Is that all right? One of a very small announcement regarding Dulwich Hamlet Football Club. There's a rally on Saturday morning from Goose Green at 12:30 that will go to the park by the ground on Saturday. Anyone wants to go, please feel free. And there's my scarf. There's another one. There we go. So solidarity. Well done everyone. Right. So that's the end of the announcements. Now we're going to move around the agenda a little bit. We've got Councillor Peter John first, who's the leader of the council, who would like to make an announcement. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Mayor. And can I warmly associate myself with your comments about those councillors who are choosing to depart at these elections. On our side, as you say, Councillor Colley, Councillor Mark Williams, Councillor Maisie Anderson, Councillor Samantha Jury Dada, Councillor Octavia Lamb, Councillor Dale, Councillor Kirby, Councillor Vijay Luthra, Councillor Lucas Green, and of course your Deputy Mayor, Jamil Mohammed, and to those on the Liberal Democrat side, I thank you as well for your service. I should pay particular tribute to my colleagues who served in the Cabinet with me, namely Councillors Colley, Williams and Anderson. Thank them particularly for their dedicated service over this administration, but it would be particularly remiss if I didn't thank especially Councillor Fiona Colley, who has been by my side through thick and thin since 2002. As somebody said the other day, I think they were being nice about you as opposed to being nasty about me. But they said, well, she has been the de facto leader, hasn't she? Yeah, Councillor Pollock. But it has been an absolute joy and pleasure. It's been a joy and pleasure working with all of you right across this chamber. We may have differences at times, but none of us come into this other than for very good reasons of public service, and I'm sure that all of us would echo your sentiments, Mr. Mayor, in that regard. I also just want to comment on the statement that has been circulated on paper with regard to Dulwich Hamlet Football Club and Champion Hill. And my statement sets out, Mr. Mayor, the decision that Cabinet took yesterday to authorise officers to enter into negotiations for the purchase of the stadium site and adjacent land at Champion Hill. This is an unusual step, but these are unusual circumstances, as many colleagues will have appreciated. It's unique in my experience that a developer has behaved in such an aggressive manner in order to try and get apparently planning consent. Normally, developers are supportive of the work of the council and come along with planning applications which are in accordance with our policies. That's the usual thing, and it's regrettable that the developer in this case has not taken that approach, but has declared, I suppose, that they're in a war with us. They're in no war with us, we're just the planning authority, and we're trying to regulate planning in this borough, but have used the football club really as a pawn in their mission. That is unacceptable. It would be unacceptable from any developer at any time. And it's particularly unacceptable when it puts at risk the fate of a football club, which is one of our borough's great community assets. Every weekend for home matches, 2,500 to 3,000 people will go to Champion Hill to watch a football game. And that is down to the hard work of the club, the team under Gavin Rose, and particularly Dulwich Hamlet Supporters Trust. And as we said, as one in this council chamber in November, we are absolutely united with the football club and we stand side by side with them, and we will not allow them to be bullied out of Champion Hill Stadium. We will not allow them to be bullied into administration. That is just not on, and we will not stand for it, and we will do everything we can as a council to support them. So, Mr. Mayor, I just want to reaffirm our commitment to Dulwich Hamlet Football Club. As I say in my statement, we do hope that still we can negotiate a way forward with Meadow, and the Director of Regeneration will be meeting with Meadow on Friday. On that same day, Helen Hayes and Harriet Harman, I think, are sponsoring an adjournment debate in Parliament on this issue. Community football clubs like Dulwich Hamlet need to be cherished and treasured, not bullied and cajoled. And I hope that all members will continue to support the actions that we take as a council to ensure the survival of Dulwich Hamlet Football Club at Champion Hill.
Thank you, Councillor John. Yesterday I met with the group of whips to consider the format of this evening's meeting, and this is set out in the programme motion which has been tabled this evening. The motion explains how this evening's business will be conducted. The meeting now needs to vote upon the motion. Can we agree the programme motion? Thank you very much. So members have agreed the programme motion, and I shall be moving the meeting on accordingly, and members are asked to keep to the agreed timings, though we are stuck as far as the screens are concerned with the countdown, so we're probably going to have to do that manually. My clerk next to me will give me a dig in the ribs when it's time to stop talking. So thank you. Now the clerk will explain what other papers have been circulated. Thank you very much. Yes, I do. Before we go on, apologies. I've received apologies from Catherine Dow, James Caldwell, Anne Kirby, Maria Linforth Hall, Eleanor Kerslake. Are there any more apologies?
From Councillor Sarah King.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Any others on the other side? No? No? Any other? Thank you very much. Right, so where are we going now? I will ask the clerk now to explain what other papers have been circulated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The following papers have been circulated for the meeting. The Open Supplemental Agenda number 1, and around the Chamber, members' questions and responses on yellow paper, late questions and response on yellow paper, public questions and response on green paper, the programme motion on white paper, and an announcement from the leader on white paper.
Thank you very much. All councillors have been granted a dispensation by the monitoring officer to vote on the member allowance scheme report. So therefore, do any members wish to make any declaration of interest? Now, when making your declaration, can you please specify if it is a disclosable pecuniary interest, and please state the nature of that interest.
I do. I have a non-pecuniary interest as I'm a trustee on Inspire.
Okay.
Did we hear that? Yes?
She's a trustee of Inspire.
Trustee, yeah, you're a trustee of Inspire. No, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lorraine. Yep. Any other?
Thank you. Sorry, I was advised to do it ahead of my speak, but I'm going to be speaking on the busking motion later on, and I'm a board member at Better Bankside, but it is a non-pecuniary interest.
Thank you, Councillor. Any others?
Sorry, I'm also a board member of Better Bankside's Business Improvement District, which has an interest in this as well.
Well done.
I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest in the motion proposed by Councillor Morris. I work for Equity, the trades union that represents those artists who are affected by that motion. Yes.
Thank you. If there's no one else, no other interests, I will move on. Minutes. Can we approve the minutes of the meeting of Council Assembly that was held on the 21st of February this year to be a correct record? Very good, thank you very much. We have to decide now what time the meeting will end. I mean, we started late, so we will close at 10 o'clock, which is gives us an hour in the what's the name. Thank you very much. Right, we'll see, we may or may not extend the guillotine later, depends how far we get with the business, of course. There are no petitions this evening. There is one question from the public this evening, and the answer to the question has already been circulated around the chamber on the green paper. Public questioners have the opportunity to ask a supplemental, but not make a speech. So, officers, can you please bring forward the public executioner, or public questioner? I now invite Maxine Charlton to ask a supplementary question of Councillor Mark Williams, who is the Cabinet Member for Regeneration and New Homes. I'm sorry about that, Maxine. I apologise. Slip of the tongue. Thank you and welcome.
Right. Sorry about this. Mr. Mayor, I would just like to ask, since our deputation did not get the Mayor's approval to be heard tonight, will the leader of the council hear Cherry Gardens Development Tenants and Residents Association deputation at the next cabinet meeting?
Thank you very much indeed, Maxine, for your question. I don't think the next meeting of Cabinet is until June, so you probably want to speak to me before then. So what we can do, we'll try and get some time in the diary, I think, in the next week or so, if that's all right. Is that okay?
I'd like to thank the public questioner for attending this evening. Officers are escorting you back to your public seating area, and if you wish, you can stay to listen to the rest of the meeting. Yeah. As we started late, I would like to move to the deputations next. That's deputations on page 8. Yes, it is. It is. So therefore, time for deputations. As part of the programme motion, members agreed to hear 3 deputations. Can officers please bring forward the first one, which is from the Leather Market JMB? Thank you. Thank you for coming. One member of the deputation may address the meeting for a period of up to 5 minutes. After this, members may ask questions for a further 5 minutes. The deputation should address their comments to the subject described in their request. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to address the council. Nowadays, it's not hard for an inner London council to secure a significant growth in housing stock through the development of upmarket flats, whether lived in or not, but then anyone can be Wandsworth. What's a lot harder to address are the housing challenges of existing communities, and that's the challenge we've set ourselves here. Southwark undeniably has proved in recent years to be a visionary council when it comes to council housing. Working with local residents, it secured changes in housing legislation to allow residents to take greater control of their estates, and ministers continue to come here to visit to see what's going on here. That's something special. This support and understanding has allowed Leather Market Community Benefit Society to develop its fundamentally different way of bringing forward new homes. Starting with our neighbours and a shared understanding of housing needs, we take a genuinely blank sheet of paper and work up our plans with potential future residents and neighbours of a site. The CBS has proved itself competent, capable and effective in delivering new homes. Residents will be moving into our first development of 27 homes, Marklake Court, within the next couple of months. We have a further 40 homes before planning at the moment, have identified 6 more early sites, with even more coming through from a consultation process with our residents. That's hundreds of extra homes. We've proven ourselves to be at least as efficient as the council, matching Southwark's unit price in our latest development, even though that doesn't include all the support that comes from the broader council infrastructure. And we were delighted to get approval for that scheme at yesterday's cabinet. Thank you. We've also secured support from both GLA and central government for our work, and have done a lot to develop local labour in the process. This process doesn't always go as smoothly as it could or should. Central to the ability of this resident-led approach, which can see more homes built on more sites more quickly than the council acting alone, is walking people from our estates step by step along the development journey, keeping their trust and confidence all the way through. This is particularly true as the potential for more ambitious schemes becomes apparent, and we've got some of those on the cards. Unfortunately, the stop-start nature of reality has taxed this residents' trust and involvement substantially. I mean, there's a thin line between appropriate governance and needless bureaucracy, and we've not always fallen on the right side. Sometimes it's not clear what values these steps bring, and, small lumps and bumps in the journey could end up costing time and money. We've clearly established a proof of concept for our way of working, and I was delighted that yesterday's cabinet agreed to shape a set of principles to support this community-led approach to strengthening local council homes for people, helping us to move on, and other groups to follow in other parts of the borough. Hopefully we've shown there's much to build on, and these policies will form a truly enabling framework to allow residents to shape the future of their estates, to build more new homes more quickly. So my question, if I may, is to the Executive Member for New Homes. Having heard that, what more can the Council do to smooth the process for resident-led new homes, to ensure a proportionate and targeted governance approach that will speed development and help build people's trust so we can get more done more quickly?
I'd like to thank the deputation and everybody involved with the Leather Market JMB and the Leather Market CBS for all of the work that you've put in to working up and getting the real resident support for the new homes at Marklake Court and also at Joseph Lancaster. And I'd also like to thank the officers for the huge amount of time and effort that they've put in to get the funding in place, get the governance arrangements correct, and get these schemes off the ground. To make the process run more smoothly, as you say, at Cabinet yesterday, we agreed a recommendation for officers to work up a set of proposals So there's a set process for when any expressions of interest come in from yourself or any other groups in the borough that wish to build their own homes as a CBS, and that will bring a lot more certainty to the process. As we've discussed previously, we're all learning. This is the first time we've built homes at scale for 30 or 40 years as a council. We've got to make sure, and our officers have got to make sure, that that public money is spent wisely, that there's the proper checks and balances in place, both to release the funds but also to release the land as well. But we want to make this work. We've got there together so far, and the new process we're going to set out and we'll be consulting on soon will make it very clear and very transparent what's needed, what's required, what the steps are that you've got to take. And I'd like to commend the approach that the CBS has taken for coming forward with quite bold plans for new homes, new council homes on the Market JMB estate, and it's by working together in partnership like this that we'll get those homes built that our residents so desperately need. And the figure that I carry around in my head every day is 11,500 families on our waiting list, and every new home that we get built is one family off that waiting list. So I'd like to thank you, the officers and all the members, for the support they've given for Marklake Court. Unfortunately, I won't be here when you cut the ribbon and it's opened, but I look forward to seeing the picture of the leader and everybody else cutting that ribbon when that happens. It's a truly exceptional scheme, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. We have 5 minutes for members' questions in total. So far, we've had Ben Johnson wants to speak, followed by Helen Dennis. Anyone else wants to speak after that? Your 5 minutes will probably be up, but right. So we'll start with Ben. 5 minutes in total for the
5 minutes. Wonderful. Thank you very much for coming, and I want to praise the really innovative work that you're doing in community-led house building. I know the process has been challenging in parts, and I think all of us are really pleased at the huge progress made. You asked what the council can do better. I'm interested from your perspective, what were the key challenges in this process?
I think the challenges are always finding the right governance structure to match the size and I suppose what the organisation is doing. So the standard off the peg governance structure almost is predicated on the traditional engage with people at the end of the process as a planning thing. And occasionally we've heard kind of noises off where people say, "Oh, like you're doing too much consultation." So I think we're right. It's been a journey, a learning process, and I think what we need is a proper governance process that fits the size of the organisation, and also, I mean, with the exception of Beverly, our programme director, we're all volunteers here, and bumping through what is the bureaucracy of local government when we just give up our evenings to do this out of fun, can sometimes be quite painful, and it's even harder to explain that sometimes. As I said, the stop-start nature to residents out there. You start to walk people along the garden path, and if you're planning an ambitious scheme, it really is predicated on residents' trust, and they don't always understand what I've heard called the Byzantine nature of local government. So I think a thought about how we can keep a real resident focus on this and trying to keep a light but appropriate touch on governance is the most important thing. I mean, I'm hoping now we've got 2 schemes under our belt that everybody will be a lot more confident with the process. I know when we started with the very first scheme, I think we were the first organisation in the country to do anything like this. And, when you're talking about tens of millions of pounds, it's quite interesting signing a cheque for a £10 million development as Chris and I did. It's something you won't get to repeat many times in your life. But obviously with that much public money at stake, with a new model, everybody's going to be really cautious. I'd like to think we've got over that caution now, but it's about getting everybody on board, and also, we will be doing things differently. We're not the only way of doing things, and it's. It'd be good to make sure that officers are always clearly aware there are maybe more than one way of doing things. And just, as I say, if you can understand and support community groups, then I'm a great fan of the Let 1,000 Flowers Grow approach. And I think that will help things move forwards. But that does require an understanding of the slightly different dynamics that keep people like us turning up to meetings on a rainy November Tuesday.
Right, thank you. Councillor Dennis, you've got about just under 2 minutes. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that all of us, certainly the Chaucer councillors, we're really excited about the Joseph Lancaster site, 40 new homes which are all going to be at social rent if that all goes through planning as it should. So thank you for all of your work on that. I think it's fair to say that a lot of developers who come to our borough could probably learn something from the way in which you've worked with local residents and really brought people along with you in that process.
It's a question, isn't it?
I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about how you've involved residents in the design, in the planning, and whether you could make recommendations to others in terms of how they can do that effectively in the future.
I think the most important thing is to start from what we all have in common. You know, normally if you speak to people about, well, what would you like on this space on your estate? People say, oh, nice green space, or maybe some, you know, seats or benches or something. But, you know, you speak to people and everybody is well aware of the real housing need there is at all levels, but particularly at council rent levels on the estates. And if you start saying, we are a community, we're trying to deal with one of the most pressing needs of our community, which is housing. And everybody understands that. People know about the overcrowded neighbours above them and below them and either side of them. And actually, you build that common understanding, and then you start, and you genuinely start with a blank piece of paper. I think people get really, really pipped off when, you know, somebody just pulls that plan out of the bag and say, here we are, this is what we've all thought about, you know, don't worry your little heads about it.
10 seconds.
This is the plan. And so I think that understanding, taking people with you and respecting them is the most important thing.
Thank you. Spot on time. That's very good. Can I ask so I thank you very much for the delegation coming here tonight. And can I ask the officers to escort you back to the public area? And as I say, if you want to stay, you're welcome to do so. And I hope that... Can officers bring forward the second deputation? This is from the residents of Stiles House. Welcome to the council chamber. So one speaker, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's come on. Excellent. We're from Stiles House, which is a TMO like Leather Market. We're based next to Southwark Tube Station. There are 48 flats in the main block of Stiles House and 2 smaller blocks. And we have allotments that residents are very popular residents. We've got award-winning gardens, and we have a very, very active community. We've come to talk to you today. This is our first deputation. And to be honest, we don't really want to be here. Don't take it personally. We just don't really want to be here. We just feel like we have no choice but to raise this issue because it's causing such a big problem for us, and the plans which exist for Stiles House are so negative that we feel we have to come here today. So we've been under threat since 2000 with numerous development schemes, and we've had a lot of developers who are interested in where we live, because actually, while it wasn't when we moved in, it's become a really nice area to live, and it's become a very, very expensive area. We don't think we shouldn't live there. We think we add to the community, but developers are very interested, and we've had scheme after scheme after scheme after scheme which is proposed to knock down people's housing, which is very, very damaging for those who live there. It's very difficult to have to deal with that all the time. And because of this, we came to the council and we asked that we're given a say on development schemes, because we think residents should have a say. We're the ones who are most affected, we're the ones who should have a say. And of course this is in accordance with what Jeremy Corbyn said and what Sadiq Khan said as policy, and we strongly support that. We've previously and many times said that residents should have a ballot because we're the ones who are affected. And we've received a number of assurances from councillors that there won't be development without resident agreement. And I quote from a question by Councillor Notes, our ward councillor in 2013, which is from the London SE1 website. Will the council leader confirm that Stiles House residents will have to approve any deal concerning the future of their homes and gardens? To which Councillor John replied, yes, I'm happy to give that assurance. On the basis of this, we got agreement from Southwark to pay for an architect to look at developing council homes on Stiles House. We want to build council housing. We're not against development. We just want the right type of development which won't have too much of a negative impact on us. We're very keen on a community-led approach. That's just what Leather Market we're talking about, a community-led approach, partnership. That's what we want to do. We're very keen to build council housing. We've come up with a plan which we think is suitable. It's strongly supported by residents. It actually designs housing which is appropriate to residents who are already in the block, because obviously 50% would go to local residents. So we've tried to design for the needs of people who live there and those who will come to live. And we want to deliver council homes which are appropriate on what is actually a very small piece of land. We're not talking anything massive, it's quite small. And you can only get so much. But we want to get some council homes on it. Despite writing to the council with the plan that Southwark did pay for, unfortunately we've not had a response to this proposal, despite asking. Instead, the council appears to be trying to enter into a land swap with Transport for London, who have a plan to build an office block on Southwark Tube Station. They also want to build that on part of our estate, demolish part of the estate, physically build over the road, there's a road between us and the tube station, and join it to a large office block on top of the tube station. We're very opposed to this plan. We think it would have a big negative impact on us, and it will also lead to a loss of green space and gardens. It would lead to a loss of trees, and actually we don't think it's delivering something that residents want, and we think residents must have a say on any development. No development is popular, but actually our plan to build council housing was popular with our residents, and we want to deliver that. Our plan was actually to deliver it in partnership with Leather Market, and it's actually quite frustrating to hear that Leather Market have been able to build those council houses and we haven't been able to when we want to. So we're very unhappy with TfL. We're not here to talk about TfL, so I won't go on, but we don't think their consultation has been very good at all, and their proposals are actually very bad for the area. However, we're here to talk about it because Southwark has given us their word that residents would have a say, and Councillor John has given us his word that residents would have a final say on any development plans, but that actually doesn't seem to be happening, and that word is not being kept. I think it's important to say that because we want to build council housing, we expect the council to support us in that. The council wants to build 11,000 council homes. We think the council should support us in a community approach. There is money. One Blackfriars had money for council housing that didn't come to us. That's actually been given to Peckham, and I think it just contrasts very sharply with Leather Market. And our deputation is to ask the council to stick to its word and give us a say on any development, give us a final say on any development at Stiles House.
Thank you very much. Do you have a question of the leader or the relevant cabinet member?
I have a question for the leader and the cabinet member. Can I ask both? Yeah, I think, well, it's to Councillor John, but it's also to Councillor Williams, which I think the question I've already asked is, will you agree that development should not go ahead without the approval of residents, and will you support the building of council housing along the lines of the TMO plan, and let us actually start building the council housing that we want to build? To Councillor Williams, yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the deputation for coming along this evening. I'd like to thank you for your support to build new council homes at Stiles House. It's, as you say, a very constrained site. There's the main Stiles House block, there's the small chalet units, and there's the fantastic green space, award-winning green space and gardens and allotments that you've built up over the years. It is a very complicated site, as you know, and the land ownership there is very complicated. There was the previous developer, Development Securities, that then rebranded as U&I, and Transport for London have just bought out, and they've now completed on the transaction. So Transport for London control the land around Algarve House. And as we know from the work that the council's undertaken and the work that Bell Phillips Architects undertook for the TMO, it's not possible to deliver new council homes on that site without an agreement with Transport for London to do a land swap and a land exchange. And it would be incredibly difficult and expensive and time consuming for us to compulsory purchase the land from Transport for London. As you know, Transport for London recently consulted on a wholly commercial scheme, as you described, above Southwark Tube Station, bridging over Jones Street, and a commercial block where Elgarve House at the moment, as well as some new council homes there as well. And I'd like to thank you for coming in 2 or 3 weeks ago, it was, when you met with myself and Councillor Cryan to talk about your concerns about Transport for London's proposals in much more detail. And I found that, and I know Councillor Cryan found that really useful and helpful to understand your specific concerns with the Transport for London designs, and particularly that residential block near Jones Street. And we've fed back to Transport for London and their architects that we want to see if they can move that block, change the massing around of the commercial elements to see if we can deliver a scheme as we discussed when we met just 2 or 3 weeks ago. We're waiting for TfL's architects to come back to see if that's possible. We're pushing them incredibly hard, because if we can get a scheme that meets Transport for London's desire to get rents, commercial rents in to help subsidise the transport network, we can deliver new council homes as well, and protect the green space on Stiles House and have your support. That is absolutely key. So the short answer to your question is yes, you will be at the heart of decision making. You will be at the heart of a final decision before any scheme goes forward. There are massive constraints on this site, but I'm sure that by continuing to work together through this process, we will get there and meet everyone's desires for this site and have some fantastic new council homes. Aren't stone's throw from the river, and as you say, 50% local lettings for people on the estate in the nearby area that desperately need to get out of overcrowded homes and get on with their lives. So I'd like to thank you for your work. It's been rocky, it's been bumpy, but we will get there with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. One councillor has indicated they want to speak. Adele Morris. Anyone else? Sorry. No? Adele, go on. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your deputation. And obviously this has been going on for years now, and it's been going backwards and forwards. You've had commitments from the administration. I've just listened to what Councillor Williams has said about what's going to happen next, and it didn't sound to me as if he was saying that you could have the council homes that you want on your site, and I wondered whether or not that was your interpretation as well, and whether in fact you have any more faith that the administration will stick to their promises that to deliver what you want than they ever did before.
That's it. No, you don't have the right to apply, unfortunately. Oh, no. I'd like to thank the delegation for coming, the deputation. I do apologise, I'm being told off. So you do have the right to reply. Please carry on.
So I think it's somewhat disappointing that Councillor Williams feels that we can't deliver council housing on the current council land, and that it's a complex site and needs TfL involvement. That actually the plan we have, and I appreciate he's not going to be totally familiar with everything, but the plan we have is to build on the current land that the council owns and could start building immediately once it decanted the properties. And I think it's disappointing that the council won't support us doing that. And yes, I would like a direct assurance that the residents will have the final say. That's what we want to hear, that the development will not happen without us having the final say. Is that a yes? Wonderful. That's good. That's what we want. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand that Councillor Barber wants to ask a question of you. You've got 1 minute 44 seconds.
We heard from Councillor Williams that there has to be all sorts of land swaps to carry out any development. Did that come up when the council employed architect helped you come up with a scheme? Was that part of the scheme that the architect has said is feasible now?
No, because there doesn't need to be a land swap. The land is owned by Southwark Housing, and we could go ahead and build a minimum of at least 19 council properties. We've only got 56 flats, so we're not a massive estate, so that's actually quite a lot for a small estate.
Thank you for that. Okay, I'd like to thank the deputation for coming. One of the officers will show you back to the public area, and as I said before, if you'd like to remain for the meeting, you are welcome. Thank you. Can I call upon officers to bring forward the third deputation, which is the residents of the Falcon Point. Thank you. Welcome all. You've probably heard the procedure. You know, you've got 5 minutes, just one speaker. And 5 minutes starts now. Thank you.
Well, we'd like to thank the councillors for hearing us today. We have, as residents, not just of Falcon Point, I would like to make the point that although on your papers it says we are a delegation from Falcon Point, we have actually got together with residents not only of Falcon Point, which is the council estate on Bankside, but also Bankside Lofts, Benbow House, the homes on Cardinal Cap Alley, in New Globe Walk, and we've also talked to some of the local businesses. We actually are talking on behalf of some 500 separate residences which are within 100 metres of the front of the Tate Modern, where the busking takes place. And what we're here to do today is to try and persuade you, councillors, not to amend the motion that's put down today, because we do feel that the amendments proposed to that motion are simply designed to neutralise it and to continue the current problem. And the current problem will not go away, because we have collected over the years a great deal of evidence that shows the harm and the pain and the distress that happens to residents who have to listen to music 10 hours a day, every day of the year, and cannot get away from it. And that is a direct result of the policies which your council has adopted. Your council has, at Bankside, put up notices which actually say, and I would like to read them, we want to encourage busking at Bankside and make Bankside a great place to perform. These notices then also invite people to use amplifiers by suggesting that those amplifiers should not disturb unduly the people who live there. They also go on to say on those notices about the residents, the 500 or so homes that exist there, that the buskers should be mindful that residents live near the river and sounds can be heard during the shows. There is minimal protection in the way in which the council presents the opportunity to busk. Also on the web, the only way in which this council describes the rules and the procedures for being a busker are by attaching what is called the Southwark scheme to the Busk in London web page. And that again simply invites people to turn up and busk and to use amplifiers and makes no concessions whatsoever to the residents that live there. Furthermore, the council's approach to the sport of busking doesn't even abide by the code which is promulgated by Busk in London. If you read the Busk in London code, it actually, because they are buskers, has a reasonable understanding of what busking is about. Busking is about entertaining people who can stop and listen to you, but can move on should they wish not to continue listening. The Busk in London code says that the sound should not be any greater than the ambient sound around you. So in other words, you should just about be able to be heard, but you should not dominate the environment. Now what you have now in front of the Tate Modern at Bankside is the frequent use of extremely powerful amplifiers, which go on not just 10 hours a day, but during the summer, sometimes into the small hours. This noise drives people away. It is not, I have lived there since 1999, before Tate Modern opened. I have observed what it's like when these buskers play at these loud volumes. It drives the tourists away. It doesn't allow people to stop and admire the view. It doesn't allow families to congregate. Occasionally, the buskers don't turn up for one reason, and it's very interesting to see how different the crowd is. The space is then not taken over by just one person who wants to sing a bad version of Blowing in the Wind at high volume, the space is then available to the people who come to visit.
You have 30 seconds.
Right. There are things that you could do. You can not vote this down, but if we were just to do the sensible thing and only allow noise that is within the ambient range, that means unamplified, then we would have what we call busking, traditional busking. You'd hear it within about 30 metres to either side, but then you could move on. It wouldn't take over the place altogether. I'd like to end.
Thank you very much. That's the end. You've used your 5 minutes up. I will ask you now, do you want to ask a question of the leader or the relevant cabinet member? Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to ask the question, do you recognise that the balance of costs and benefits between the residents who live there, all 500 of them, and the buskers who just turn up mainly to earn as much money as they possibly can, the balance of costs and benefits there is not set right, and that the council needs to do something about it. And I would like to add to that, do you recognise that if you were simply, as your bylaws would allow you to do, to not permit people to use amplifiers, you would solve most of the problem. This would go away with relative ease. You don't need to make this a difficult problem. There are amenable solutions available. And lastly, I would just like to say...
That's probably your question. I would have thought you asked two there. Yeah, I'll ask the relevant cabinet member to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for the deputation for coming along tonight. Southwark Council acknowledges the noise nuisance is a problem for the residents in this area, and we also acknowledge what a unique area that we have on the Bankside area. I wanted to ask, are you aware of the Better Bankside busking working group who will be making recommendations in June, and which we feel we're looking forward to, we think that the motion tonight is premature, and that we'd like to hear what the recommendations of that working group is, which involves residents from the area, which involves Better Bankside, and which has the support of the Tate and the Globe Theatre. Residents in the area wanting to come to a solution, and we, whilst acknowledge very much the long-standing problem that this has and the resources that the council has had to put into this, and I'm sure you would acknowledge that we want to wait to see what the outcome of that working party is before we take our next step.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, does any member wish to ask questions of the deputation? No? Oh, there's one. Go on, David.
Can I begin by thanking the deputation for taking the time to come down and to speak so clearly. Can I just ask them what commitments you would like to see from the council to be made tonight in regards to tackling the issue of busking, noise-related busking?
Well, I would just like to point out that I attended the last meeting of the Better Bankside Working Group. I know about it, and it is producing recommendations which are fully consonant with this motion. And what I would like to ask is that, will you commit to following the recommendations of this working group? We have been dealing with this matter for nearly 20 years, and all the recommendations and all the views we have brought before you have been gently and persistently rebuffed. It seems to be regarded, I have to say, by your officials as a useful thing to do to make us go away. They can go back to the office and say, we've got rid of that one this time. But there is suffering going on. We have had people, because they are small flats, they are largely one-bedroom flats, old people who have died having to listen to this nonsense courtesy of Southwark Council. This is not a minor matter. The degree of mental illness, of distress and of pain that is taking place here is extremely substantial. It breaks all kinds of ethical, moral rules. To try and rebuff this and to neutralise this, as the amendments today try to do. I regret that the amendments indicate an unwillingness to follow the guidance and the proposals that have been made and which are likely to be made by the Better Bankside Working Group. So my response to this is, we are sceptical of the assurances, but if you're willing to make them this time, we would be most grateful.
Thank you for that. If there's no more members' questions, then I will thank you very much for coming. And once again, if you'd like to go back to the public area, and you can stay for the rest of the evening if you wish to do so. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now we're sort of reverting back in the agenda a bit to the theme debate, the future of Southwark, opportunities and challenges. I'm going to bring forward Southwark Youth Council. This evening's theme debate is on the subject, as I say, the future and opportunities. We shall now consider the first community evidence submission on the theme from the Southwark Youth Council. Can the officers please bring them forward? Thank you for coming. You have 5 minutes in which to address the Assembly. I won't strictly keep it to one person. If others want to make a contribution, please do. 5 minutes start now.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors and officers. My name is Victoria Balogun, and on behalf of Southwark Youth Council, I would like to say a massive thank you for allowing us to present before you today. We are Southwark Youth Council, elected by Southwark young people. Our Southwark Youth Council tenure group was formed, all of us aged between 15 and 19, to speak out, make actions, to represent the voice of the youth of our borough. We were elected in March 2017 on the manifesto of 3 priority topics voted for by young people in Southwark as issues they wanted to see addressed. These were knife crime, careers, training and employability, and thirdly, bullying. Through workshops and consultations, we have identified that amongst young people, there is a lack of knowledge around work experience, post-16 training, and career pathways available to them. As youth representatives, we envisage a Southwark where every young person has access to opportunities that can aid in their physical and mental growth. We envisage a Southwark where every school has a substantial amount of external business connections, enabling a fairer opportunity distribution, allowing youth from all areas and backgrounds to not feel limited in their ability to strive towards their success. We envisage a Southwark where there are enough entry-level opportunities available to all post-16 students, catering to the wonderful youth diversity in our community, with interests ranging from art to academia to voluntary courses, etc. We envisage a Southwark where lack of experience is simply no longer a barrier to progress in youth employability. And I'll now hand over to Ben to explain how together we can realise this vision.
Thanks. Yeah, so we believe that more can and indeed more should be done to improve the access which young people have to information about the range of options available to them. And this can be delivered through engagement events which give the opportunity for networking between employers and youth. But it's also necessary to strengthen the partnerships and coordination between secondary schools, the council, employers, to enable better dissemination of information and offer the much needed support for young people during the difficult period of their lives and that kind of transition from school to university or to a job. And in this way, we believe the Southwark Youth Council will be best utilised as a conduit between young people and these establishments. We aim for the existing range of offers such as work experience, trainings and apprenticeships entry jobs and enterprise schemes to be brought together in a more unified way, perhaps a platform that will create sort of pathway links between them so young people can visualise their ladder to success. And the theme of this council assembly today is Southwark's future. Providing information is important, but we've also got to focus on equipping the young people of Southwark with skills to access and to fill the jobs in the future. And as such, building confidence and practical skills development and training is vital, like the Construction Skills Centre, for example. And we think that this should be expanded to different industries to engage more young people and to support them to be ready for the world of work. And to kickstart the process, we're organising a careers, networking and employability event. This is aimed between sort of people at ages between 14 and 19, many of whom have sort of preconceptions or notions about kind of what job or what career path they want to take in the future. And I guess this event aims at sort of challenging those preconceptions and in a way sort of highlighting the plethora of different career paths and options that are available to them. And I think on that note, thank you for listening, and we're happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, well done. Do you have a question to the relevant cabinet member?
I don't know, not for me, but from anyone else.
Okay. Does any member wish to speak? I've got James Ockerson to start, followed by Evelyn Akoto. So Evelyn second, and then Vicky third. Okay.
I'd like to thank you all for coming. It was a very good presentation as well, very clear. So yeah, I'd like to congratulate. You need to congratulate yourselves on that. So it's very good, but even better that I'm speaking right now. All I have is a question really. You spoke about your focus, which is knife crime training and employment for young people. Now, obviously, the council needs to do more in terms of getting young people and vulnerable young people and young people are not so vulnerable into these things. So, in your view, what do you think the council can do in terms of planning services for young people? As opposed to the council dictates to young people what needs to happen. So how do you think the council can involve you in shaping these services for young people now and in the future?
Well, somebody say.
I guess in terms of branding, so the council can at least go out to schools, so like in assemblies, to reach out to young people and also engage in their interests as well. So for example, if a student or someone's interested in fashion or maybe football, at least engage in that so that you can grab their attention, if you get what I mean. So yeah.
Also the way the council comes across, because a lot of things is Southwark Council and we look at it and we see Southwark Council, that's too formal, not really going to listen, I'll do something else. But if you come across in a way that's engaging to young people, so it's less about, Southwark Council is still a part of it, but it's more about engaging the young people rather than the young people engaging with the council's idea. We want to engage with the young people's idea instead, and if you could carry it across in a way that is as a young person, maybe, you'll be more engaging to do so. Yeah.
Councillor Koto, you're next.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say a big thank you for your presentation. I want to thank you also for stepping up and speaking for the youth of Southwark. And I want to say that I'm wholeheartedly supporting your visions, everything that I want to aspire for young people in this borough. What I want to ask you is that aside from the careers event you're organising, what else have you been doing or working on to address this priority issue?
As a youth council, we've worked with a European-funded pilot study called WeGovNow, which is using digital mapping in order to connect with young people and provide a platform in which they can easily find employability and training opportunities. And as well as this, we've partnered with The Inspired, which is an organisation which supports young people into volunteering and rewards them for doing so. And through this, we aim to not only equip young people with the skills to empower them in the future, such as teamwork, problem solving and confidence, but also to help them give back to our communities.
Councillor Mills, you're next.
Thank you, and to echo Evelyn's comments, it is great that you're here, you're speaking up for young people this evening as we're talking about the future of Southwark. It was to ask, I don't know what your term of office is, and this is beyond my term of office, but myself and Johnson, who have responsibility for the Council's Youth Fund, which is £1 million spend every year aimed at young people, and it is spent on employment, education and training opportunities. It's to invite the Youth Council to help us refresh that fund after the election, and whether that is something that you would be interested in doing and helping us figure out how best to spend that £1 million every year.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I think that would be amazing if we could do that. I mean, we've talked to a lot of people in our schools and a lot of people who we represent about the kind of issues that young people our age find most important and most pertinent. So I think, yeah, we're really grateful that you would think about including us in that kind of decision-making process.
Councillor Al-Samirai, you've got about 45 seconds.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you so much for such a confident and clear presentation. I have to say the theme of the meeting, as you said, is the future of Southwark, and I think nothing would inspire all of us about the future from Southwark from hearing from you guys. So thank you very much this evening. I just wondered, I know we don't have much time left, but you talked about priorities and you talked about the employability side of things in quite a lot of detail. You mentioned knife crime, and obviously that's a huge concern for all of us here. Could you just touch very quickly on some of the things that the Council might do to help address that, working with you, what your ideas are?
So, okay, in terms of knife crime, what we have been doing is, so there's been the Peckham and Nunhead Community Council meetings. So I've been there networking in order to give young people the opportunities that they need, because one reason why people get involved in knife crime is because they don't have the things that they need to do like outside of school, because like in school it's like English, maths and science, but some people are not everyone's talented in English, maths and science, so you want to give them what they need in order to, you know, get out of what they're doing. So it's just like an alternative. So I guess that's one way.
Thank you very much. Well, you've gone over your time, so I'd like to thank you for coming, and I'll ask one of the officers to escort you back. Thank you. Right, next up is Southwark Living Streets. If they could be brought forward, thank you very much. You've got 5 minutes. I'll tell you when half of the 5 minutes is gone. Is that right? Good, good, good. Oh, you got your thing there. 5 minutes starting from now.
My name is Peter Wright. I'm chair of Southwark Living Streets. I'm here with Jeremy Leach. We're delighted to be able to put the case as to how walking, cycling and being active, healthy and happy are a fundamental part of the future you all wish to create for Southwark. In the period since the millennium, Southwark has made great strides in improving the environment and starting to create the healthy streets that London is now embracing. They have worked alongside the many Friends of Parks groups to deliver green infrastructure projects. Initiatives like East Walworth Green Links, Walk Elephant and the plans for Canada Water have built walking-friendly links into the very fabric of Southwark's rapidly changing landscape. The benefits include car-free routes that people can use away from danger, noise and pollution. Also, developers are also being encouraged to build in link green and traffic-free spaces into their developments, as in the Elephant Park and the Low Line project. Encouraging walking and cycling is important, but there are also now many research articles showing that the variety, complexity and unpredictability of plants and trees are valuable antidotes to the predictable linearity of the built environment that the brain finds very boring. The idea of a greener belt for for healthy route and green spaces has been proposed in relation to the Old Kent Road development, connecting the Thames at Lambeth and at Rotherhithe. This is very important as the area of land currently given to green space falls well short of the council's own stated minimum. Developers need to meet or pass this minimum requirement as the pressure to build water-wall high-rise is ever present. We feel the greener belt principle can be rolled out across Southwark to provide a network of connections between the borough's wide array of green spaces. Where I live in East Walworth, local people work closely with the council and our councillors and have created an area that is now safe, quiet and pollution-free through the Salisbury Row Streets for People scheme. Many walking and cycling commuters say they come through this area because the plants and trees are so beautiful and local residents are very proud of where they live. Low traffic neighbourhoods like this are a forerunner of the much praised Mini Holland scheme in Walthamstow Village. Through careful engagement with local people and a reduction in dangerous through traffic, they offer a low-cost solution to the problems that many communities have highlighted in recent years. Most
notably in and around the Camberwell Grove area. Thank you, Peter. We wanted to round things off just by emphasising how issues around the way people travel and move are closely tied in with the big challenges that Southwark faces. Policy has now shifted hugely in London. Southwark's two most recent transport strategies used to be light years ahead of the GLA, explicitly making the link between transport and health. Policy across London has now caught up, and Healthy Streets focuses its attention on the benefits of walking, cycling and public transport and away from travel by car. Vision Zero sets a target that by 2041, no one should be killed or seriously injured on our roads. Southwark does, though, remain well ahead of other boroughs with its recent curbside strategy and the award-winning cycling strategy. But there are some real challenges as we strive to wrest back our streets, town centres and high streets from the motor vehicle. And we just want to touch on three that indicate the size of the task ahead. The first is the casualties on our roads. Southwark has made great strides in reducing casualty numbers, but like many boroughs, the decline has halted. The Vision Zero target demands that casualties start to fall again. Secondly, we need to highlight the ongoing problem of inactivity, especially amongst children. The latest findings show that 43% of Year 6 children in Southwark are overweight or obese. Our final statistic is from the 2001 census that 58% of all households in Southwark did not have access to a car. This is real potential to implement policies that benefit the many who do not own a car. As a campaign group, our role is to push the borough to go further in the next 4 years. It cannot be right that it costs less than 50p a day to store a car on a street so that no other uses of that street can be envisaged. It cannot be right that children are no longer seen on our streets. Low traffic neighbourhoods like Pete's described could help to
30 seconds.
Thanks, John.
It cannot be right that 2 pedestrians have died on Peckham High Street recently, and that year in, year out, more than 1,000 people are injured on Southwark's roads. The policies to address this now exist, but it's a case of being bold and brave enough to deliver them for the many, even if there is kickback from the few. In 4 years' time, we hope we can say that transport and travel around Southwark is part of what makes this a great place to live in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have a question to the relevant cabinet member?
I think it was how the ambition of the new transport strategy can try and meet these ambitions that we all have for the borough, really.
Thank you, Jeremy and Peter. Can I say that the test that you've given us is something that we hope will match over the coming 4 years when we're re-elected in May. The key thing is that we want community involvement, and some of the proposals that you come forward with here this evening are absolutely fundamental to achieve that. Firstly, we do need that green belt linking, as you say, all the way from the riverside at Lambeth to the other side of Southwark, and that's something which will be a key platform going forward. Secondly, we also need more active travel. And that's why I'm very pleased that the dockless cycling launch was held on Monday, even though it faces some criticism locally. But the fact is this will get more people out and about, active transport, the length and breadth of the borough. That's good for individuals' health, it's good for the overall community, and it reduces congestion on our streets. But the key thing is, we have to put our money where our mouths are, and we're committed to at least £20 per head of each individual resident in this borough, of putting that in our cycling infrastructure over the next 4 years. So Southwark is determined, as you said before, Jeremy, to be ahead of the curve in relation to transport needs and transport proposals. And that's why it was very pleasing this month that we were awarded London Transport Borough of the Year. So it shows that we must be doing something right, and that's a record to be very proud of, and it's a record to build on to go forward for those next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members that would like to ask a question of this group? No? Well, in that case, I'll thank you all for coming. You can respond if you like, yes. Time's up, unfortunately. Is it? Go on, listen, go on. I'm being very benevolent this evening. Please, carry on.
Just to say that, yes, the green belt 2 goals down is a brilliant idea, and we really support that. But hopefully we can think about having a greener triangle belt, so it doesn't just go across the borough, but it goes down the triangle of the borough, because then you'll have a circuit where people can really use the green space. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, you're welcome. You're welcome. Whoop, you're right there. We should now consider the third community evidence submission on the theme, and this is from Inspire at St. Peter's. If the officer could bring them along, thank you. Thank you very much. You have, as you probably know by now, you have 5 minutes in which to address the Assembly. Thank you.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. We work for Inspire, so we're a community-based project, and we're in Southwark, so we're just off Walworth Road. The project's been going for about 7 years, and currently we're running 3 projects. The first one is getting ready for work, so that's working with 19 to 25-year-olds, helping and supporting them into employment, apprenticeship, training courses, work experience and voluntary work. Many of the clients on getting ready for work face sort of like adversities when it comes to, for example, housing problems, financial support, low confidence, being involved in gangs and so forth. The second project we work on is SEED, so that's a Southwark employment project, which is really brilliant. We've been running that for about a year now, and it's offering Southwark residents a chance to have a 12 months or 6 months or 12 months contract, which offers London living wage, which is £10.20 an hour, so it's really good. And the third project, that's more of a financial project, so we work in partnership with Smallwood Trust, so we can give young women from the ages of 16 to 25 up to £1,250, but they have to be engaging with some employment activity or training, and it could be, so for example, a young person is looking for work and needs some support with childcare, so maybe we can offer them some childcare for 6 weeks or 2 months or whatever the case may be. And I'll hand you over to Hannah, who does a lot of the finances, so she can tell you a little bit more.
So part of the Getting Ready for Work project, we also have the opportunity for young people to access bursaries. So we have a professional development fund, so that is for training courses and different types of cards or badges, like a CSCS card or a SIA badge. A lot of the young people, they with the job centres, they can help them with the courses, however with the badges they can't fund them, so we're here to help them do that, and they can be quite expensive as well. So the courses, they can be up to £1,500, and for other equipment, so work equipment, travel expenses, lunch for the first month. That can be up to £250. A lot of young people also, they struggle finding employment because they don't have access to a laptop. So we can support them with buying a laptop or an iPad to help them do that, as long as they're engaging with our project and we know that they are 100% looking for employment. The Small Woods Trust, it also provides, as Tarina was saying, childcare, but as well as that, some young women, they have some housing issues, so if they need help with a rent deposit, then we can help them with that, and also if the first month's rent, but it also just has to be up to £1,500. So we do money savvy workshops with them so that they can manage their money better, and we also provide some more workshops to the young people, male and female. So that's, like I said, money savvy, employer engagement, career mapping if they're not sure what they want to do, mock interviews and so forth.
No, we've got about 18 people into work from January, and we've still got 2 weeks to go, so hopefully we'll get a few more into
this quarter.
Paid employment for this quarter. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Do you have a question for the relevant cabinet member?
No.
Fair enough then, fair enough. I've got one member at the moment who's indicated they want to speak. That's, who have we got first? We've got Johnson City to start with. Then we've got Samantha second. Anyone else? Right, Johnson City.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I imagine many members right across Assembly today will agree that, and thank you for all of the fantastic work you've been doing. And you didn't start yesterday, you've continued year after year at the heart of the local community. So thank you, and particularly thank you for your work around seeds. And just to reiterate, it all rolls at the London living wage, which is really important. I know it's something that young people really appreciate as an investment into their future as well. My question is brief, and I'll just ask. The last community evidence we had was from the Youth Council, and they talked about a careers fair happening in a week or two. I know it's probably on your radar anyway, but if it isn't, would you be happy to go along and talk about seeds? And secondly, as well, I know I had a chance to go along to speak to the Youth Council on Monday, and something they brought up was just communication and getting information out there. And I know you do a lot of work in terms of promoting some of the many opportunities right across the borough. So I just wanted to ask if you can elaborate on that a little bit more as well.
Yeah. Well, one of our key aims is partnerships. I know there's a lot of technology and social media and emails, but it is so brilliant to meet people face to face. And for example, I go to meetings, like I went to Business Launchpad. We had an event in January, and they're quite busy and they couldn't come to see me, so I went yesterday just for half an hour meeting, just to have that face-to-face connection. So we're still always happy to have partnerships. And how it evolved with Business Launchpad is I met them, I think, the ending of November. We planned an event in January. We had 2 meetings, had the event, went fantastic. We got some new referrals. We're starting to work together. And we met yesterday half an hour to plan the follow-up event. So a big part of the work we do really relies on partnership work. We support agencies and other organisations because we're only specialists in one area. We're not specialists in all. So partnership and engagement is very important, and it has to be an effective partnership where, you know, we get some results for the clients that we're working with, not just results for us, but results for the community. So, you know, we're having a career fair on Friday. Yeah, you're going to come, but we're hoping to have more events and just things that, you know, engage the young people, because that's, you know, that's who we're supporting. So yeah, partnership is key, and especially face to face. You can have meetings in half an hour, and it's really sharp, short, and but it's an effective, and you get a good, you know, it doesn't, you know, emails are good and it's all lovely, but I'm a little bit old fashioned and I still like to attend meetings. So partnership is always going to be key to the work that we do, from, you know, whether it's new organisations or past ones that we've previously worked with. Yeah.
Thank you. Samantha?
Yeah, just want to quickly reiterate the thanks and to the work that you do. Earlier we had a discussion about kind of youth violence and knife crime in the borough, and one of the biggest ways of tackling that is having kind of stable employment opportunities for young people who are affected or at risk of gang violence or just general knife crime. What would you say is the kind of biggest challenges working with that cohort of people, and what can kind of the council do to support you to work with those people and help you identify them maybe better?
Well, I was doing outreach at Southwark Probation for about 18 months, and the biggest challenge is, number one, is to just promote the services so that people are aware, not just the clients, but the workers, service users, anybody that can refer to the services. And the second one is to just build up trust with the clients that you're working with, because some of them, unfortunately, has worked with other support agencies before they come to Inspire or another organisation, and you know, people promise them this and that, and because they're quite vulnerable, when it's not delivered to them, sometimes they say, well, I might as well go back to what I know because I'm going to be getting better results. So it's really about building up trust and making the words become actions. And once you're working with clients and probation officers and they can see that they're getting some results, they start to sort of build up a little bit more confident and start referring. But we always listen to what the client's needs are, not just put something on and it's structured. If clients need confident building more than mock interviewing for that quarter, then we'll do more sessions on confident building. So it's also listening to what they need to help them progress in their lives. Yeah.
Councillor Ali, you've got 10 seconds.
My goodness. I came to visit Inspire as part of the scrutiny of the post-16 offer. Very impressive with the work that you were doing there, and I wondered if you'd be up for a conversation about how we can track how we're helping particular vulnerable groups like care leavers. Thank you.
Yes, brilliant. Let's get together on that. Not a problem. It's really good. Yeah. We're always interested, as I said before, in partnerships and seeing how we can work together.
Right, I'd like to thank you for attending this evening. Officers will escort you to the public seating area if you wish to listen to the theme debate. Right, we have Southwark Young Advisors. If they could come forward, thank you. Thank you very much for coming this evening, sir. Let's say the usual, you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Cleese Buck. I'm one of the Southwark Young Advisors, and I've been a Southwark Young Advisor for the past 5 years. Our role as Southwark Young Advisors is to break the barriers between the young adults and the public, and also the police. So we try to get involved. We do projects such as Street Base, which involves us interacting with kids that hang around in the estates, around Southwark, helping them, directing them down the right path, as in liaising them with such activities that they are interested in doing, and other stuff that we've got coming up. We'll also do such work as we're starting up a peer navigating scheme, which will be starting real soon, working with this YOS team, the Youth Offending Service team, doing it at Walworth Secondary School. So that's us helping out young men growing up involved with trauma awareness, and other topics related towards that situation. It was also doing a survey with Canada Water Master Plan, finished off a couple of weeks ago. In the survey, we've completed 150, we interacted with 186 young people and completed 156 where we spoke to the kids in around the area of Canada Water and asked them what they would like to see around their areas growing up, as they are the new generation, as they are going to be living there, as the older generation will be dying out, no offense, and stuff. But they gave us their opinion and what they would like to see in Canada Water as they are rebuilding and things. The question that I do have tonight is for Councillor Barry. Yes, will the council be agreeable to consider using innovative and imaginative ideas, local knowledge, strength and skills of the young advisors and other local young people to find the best solution on success that affects young people across the borough, i.e. youth crime, antisocial behaviour, public and mental health and employment?
Thank you very much, Chris, for coming tonight. And I had the pleasure of attending the 10-year celebration of the Young Advisors at Portcullis House, together with the Strategic Director, Deborah Collins, who is extremely proud of all the work the Young Advisors in Southwark do. It was really eye-opening for me, the brilliant stuff you do, and you mentioned Street Base, which is the basis for a national rollout programme which began here in Southwark. I want to thank you so much for coming on your own, and I'm sure you lots and lots of colleagues. You presented extremely well, and I'm so proud of all the work that you do, and thank you for presenting tonight. And in a nutshell, yes, our door is always open. We are always ready to listen to the young advisors. Do get in touch and let us know what we can do to assist you in all the really important work that you're doing out there with our young people in this borough. Thank you.
Councillor Hargrove, did you want to ask a question, or, because I know you indicated you did. You're happy with that? Right, okay, thank you. Well, in that case, I'll invite Councillor... Sorry, I'm being... what? Councillor Hubbard. Sorry, sir.
I know I'm small and difficult to see, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for your presentation. I was interested in what you were saying about the Canada Water Master Plan and development. Could you tell us a bit about whether the developers have helped you at all in this, and in what way?
In the survey that we did complete, we done it off our own. We helped to actually write the surveys to suit young people and to give, so they can give us back the answers that the Canada Water Master Plan projects are looking for. In doing the surveys, we did go around the area and ask different people that, but what we did find out was that some of the kids or some of the young adults and older generation didn't know about the whole Canada Water Master Plan and it being breaking it down and rebuilding it up again. So it was an eye-opener for me personally as well. My mum and dad didn't know about it either, so it was something that I learned whilst doing that, but we've done it off our own back.
Thank you. Councillor Seaton, do you have a question you'd like to ask?
I have, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much. Excellent presentation, and my voice has been projected loudly tonight, I must say. I'm really interested to know, you describe what you do, but I'm really keen to hear you talk about your successes, because very often organisations come here and tell us about what they do. Tell us about your successes, how effective you've been, how many young people you've engaged, how many lives you possibly have saved.
I'll put this one aside. From my experience, anyway, as a Southwark Young Advisor, we have helped out more than a few young people in the borough. We had a youth club running where we was assigned with young kids to mentor. Obviously, I can say that I do have my own history and coming from certain backgrounds and stuff, and changed my life around. The kids that I did mentor at the time, I still see them around the area, and they come up to me like, oh, how you doing, Cleese, you alright? And so for me personally, that's a good feeling that I can say he's not doing what he could have been doing or what other young kids are doing. He goes to college, he's trying to help, I'm trying to help him out as well, that, you know, I'm trying to help myself out, and other stuff. But yeah, young guys, I think personally that we have other projects that we are doing around Neckinger as well. We've got the TRA, we've got a youth club around there that we do engage with young people as well, go out in the evening and try to get them to help them with their homework, like the kids that are out and about in the streets. If they are, they've got homework, so you can come to the youth club to help you with your homework and stuff. Other things that which I basically, we try to, or I try to, us as young advisors and our team, we try to make sure that they don't go down the wrong path. Especially me personally, I've been down that wrong path, so I try to make sure they don't go around that wrong path and stuff. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members who would like to ask a question? No? Well, in that case, can I thank you very much for attending this evening, and officers will escort you to the public seating area. Thank you. We will now consider the themed motion on the future of Southwark, opportunities and challenges. Councillor Peter John, Leader of the Council, you have 7 minutes in which to present the themed debate and the motion on the theme.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Those who cannot remember the past are doomed to repeat it. In 2010, Southwark had been run by the Liberal Democrats and Conservatives in coalition for 8 years, a coalition that was failing the residents of our borough. Mr. Mayor, the council was near the top of the tables, but in a Morecambe and Wise way, they were all of the wrong tables. Council tax collection was the 3rd worst in the country. Recycling was the 6th worst. Adult social services were failing. We had the highest childhood obesity and teenage pregnancy rates. And only 53% of our council housing was decent, with our council housing being branded the worst run in London by the Audit Commission. And 500 children of primary school age didn't have a place in any school of their choice in the borough. In the face of cuts, closures, price hikes, dither and delay, the Labour administration took charge and started putting right those Lib Dem Tory failures. So that now, our council tax collection rate is award-winning. Our recycling rate is the highest in inner London. Our adult social care services have high satisfaction rates and is underpinned by the Ethical Care Charter. Our childhood obesity rates are declining thanks to the introduction of free healthy school meals, and our teenage conception rates are now the lowest they ever have been since monitoring began. 95% of our council housing is now decent after our warm, dry and safe programme invested £400 million. And we have created nearly 4,500 new school places so that 97.5% of primary-age children had a place at one of their top 3 schools of choice this year. Before 2010, we were told that nothing could be done. The council's hands were tied by government and they didn't have the money. That wasn't an explanation, it was an excuse for failure. And as for having no money, perhaps they should have realised they were enjoying the best of times. We have shown since 2010 there is an alternative, and that political vision and leadership makes a difference. That informed by our political values, we can make changes with our communities which enrich and improve the lives of our residents. And Mr. Mayor, we've shown the value of genuinely universal services, with free, healthy school meals, demonstrating that you can tackle health and social inequalities from the youngest of ages. And it's why I'm pleased to announce that a Labour Council, if elected on May the 3rd, would extend that policy to cover all children at school nurseries too. And for 76,500 amazingly diverse people who've already signed up for free swim and gym, we've shown that there doesn't need to be any barrier to staying fit. Southwark has more than played its part in tackling the housing crisis. Over the last 5 years, more than 7,500 new homes have been built in our borough. 42% of those on sites of 10 or more where the affordable housing has been delivered. 1,500 of those social rented. Our own council housing programme has already delivered nearly 500 completed new homes, with a further 1,500 in the process of being developed, planned or built. That is still the highest level of delivery of genuine council housing of any council in the country. Mr Mayor, we'll carry on building the homes that London needs, and we will continue to take the benefits of regeneration. Because one of those benefits has been the stunning increase in the levels of employment in Southwark since 2010. An increase of 10% of the number of people in work, or 45,000 new jobs created, whilst at the same time we've driven unemployment down from over 10% to just 6%. And more than 5,000 of those jobs have been created since 2014 with the direct input of Southwark Council. 5,000 lives that we have changed for the better. Our record on apprenticeships is unparalleled. In 2014 we committed to creating 2,000 new apprenticeships. By the end of March, we'll have created 1,800. And last year in London, we were responsible as a council for creating 26% of all of the apprenticeships created by local authorities, more than 1 in 4. Mr Mayor, our ambition and our aspiration for our residents' future remains as strong as ever. Yes, we'll continue to see physical change from the Elephant to Peckham and from Blackfriars to Canada Water and the Old Kent Road. And we will continue to ensure that our residents are the true beneficiaries of the opportunities created. We want to ensure that every child has the best start in life, from clean air to great schools, from more Southwark scholarships and bursaries to apprenticeships and jobs that are only being created here. We'll build the high-quality homes that residents can afford, with more homes of every type being built across the borough to tackle the housing crisis. We'll carry on with our ambition to deliver 11,000 new council homes and work to drive up standards in the private rented sector. And we'll create direct opportunities for our residents to not only be the builders of our future, but also the architects, the quantity surveyors and engineers, extending the diversity of those professions. We'll carry on making Southwark a great place to live, tackling the great public health challenge of poor air quality and climate change, and making our borough carbon neutral by 2050. We'll ensure that Southwark continues to be a healthy borough, where your background doesn't determine your life chances, from free swim and gym to extending and improving the opportunities to walk and cycle. We'll deliver a borough where staying fit isn't a choice, it's how we live our lives. We'll work to make Southwark a full employment borough, where the barriers keeping people out of work are swept away and everyone has the skills to play a full part in our economy now and for the future. And as an organisation, we know we must ensure the council is a modern and efficient one, which listens to and works with residents and communities and communicates with them in the way in which they choose, not the way we choose, and which provides stability and support at this time of Brexit uncertainty. Our vision for Southwark, Mr Mayor, is more than just a list. It's about keeping our promises and tackling the fundamental inequalities that exist across Southwark. We have learned the lessons of the past. We remember the Southwark that under the Lib Dems and Tories wasn't working for our residents, neither the many nor the few. We have shown that it doesn't need to be that way. Southwark can be ambitious and optimistic. Mr Mayor, we are proud of our record. We are ambitious for our fairer future.
Thank you, Councillor. Spot on time. We've got a number of people who would like to speak, but first of all, we're going to go to the lead opposition spokesperson, Councillor Samurai.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I have to say I was a little bit sad and disappointed to read the Labour motion, partly because they didn't actually start talking about the future of the borough until paragraph 7 of 9. But really I was sad because there was, to be honest, a lack of integrity in what was written down. There was deliberate misinterpretation and actually stuff that was blatant lies. And I think it's a real shame, actually, because that devalues the purpose of a debate about the future of the borough. And I think it's the stuff that puts the public off politics, of the kind of you said, you did, we did. I think, actually, when you talk to Labour members privately, they acknowledge that the Liberal Democrats did turn around the borough between 2002 and 2010. Those of them who can remember, Mr Mayor, remember that the borough estates, the Labour government had taken them to the private sector to run because the council couldn't be trusted to run its own schools. They privately acknowledged that we built the Canada Water Library, that we invested in leisure centres, and actually that political competition is a good thing. And I will publicly say that I think they have done some good things running the council. We have had great cross-party support for the London living wage, for keeping all our libraries open. And I think it's a real shame, like I say, to devalue and kind of try and pick holes where on issues that we've worked together and supported them on. I also think, as this is the last council meeting for a number of councillors in this chamber, it's right to publicly acknowledge the public service from all parties, and I do that for Labour councillors as well as my own group. I particularly want to thank Rosie and James and Ben, who are standing down, but especially Councillor David Hubber, who has been a councillor, not all in Southwark, but has been a councillor for 50 years. And I just want to say thank you, David. However, Mr. Mayor, there are areas where we disagree. And it's right that we have a debate about them, but that debate should be honest and it should be facts. And actually one of the things David's always been very good about is let's play by the rules and have a fair debate. And I think this evening we need to have that fair debate and talk about the areas where we disagree based on facts. The first area has really been, and it's been interesting over the last 8 years, to look at sort of decision making and the way decisions are made. And we've had lots of debates about community councils and where decisions lie. But I thought the pattern of evidence we heard from communities this evening was really about the solutions lying with those communities. I thought the comparison between the Leather Market deputation and the Stiles House deputation was really revealing, actually, about when you actually work with a community, solutions that work on the land that they live on, you get people bought in a way that's actually effective. I thought the busking deputation was excellent. These are people who live there who already know the answers. They don't need to be told by the council what the answers are, and they certainly don't need to have their ideas watered down by an amendment from councillors who don't live there and put up with that noise every day. And I think also the Youth Council made an excellent point, which I wrote down, and they said, it's not about young people engaging with the council's ideas, it's about the council engaging with our ideas. And I think that's certainly been a big difference I've seen over the years as Leader of the Opposition about the way the council approaches engagement and consultation. The other big area of disagreement we all know has been around housing, and I think it's been really valuable debates that we've had about how to tackle the housing crisis. I understand that Labour councillors have thought the answer was to let developers do what they want, take the money, squeeze it on existing estates, and I think that policy has been flawed, and I think we're now actually seeing some evidence of that in terms of the impact on mixed communities, in terms of 1 in 4 new homes being sold abroad. And we've had a bit of debate about the empty homes figures that have come out last week, and just to really put pressure on the council and say, why is it taking Southwark Council 4 months to turn around an empty property when it takes Tower Hamlets 3 weeks? So I think there are good areas of debate. I think it's really important that we have them, but it's also really important that we listen to those communities, because that's where the answers really lie.
Thank you, Councillor. Another one spot on time. I think Councillor Bill Williams wants to say something.
Mr. Mayor, in order for this debate to continue, I'd like to move that we suspend the guillotine for 30 minutes as per Council Assembly Procedure 1.12.6.
I see no reason